My wife and I were driving down a dark road on our way to Colorado for our honeymoon. It had been around midnight and I'd been driving for 4 hours. My wife was fast asleep in the back seat and I had nobody to talk to. So I listened to the radio to keep me from dozing off. They were playing Wouldn't It Be Nice by the Beach Boys, a song that I've loved since I was a young boy. I was singing along to the tune as quietly as I could, trying not to wake my wife. That's when it suddenly got foggy out. The snow that we were warned about started falling and the radio turned to static. The fact that we were the only ones on the road was very unsettling. We hadn't seen another car since we drove by that gas station almost 2 hours before. It was frightening, to say the least. I continued driving despite the fact that I could barely see. Static continued to restrain the radio from playing my favorite childhood song. I don't know why. Maybe it was the fact that it was really foggy out. But I felt that something bad was bound to happen. The radio was getting louder, even though I had turned the thing off. I was hearing voices that were coming from the radio. I thought I was hearing things because I was dreadfully tired. It sounded like a woman. Her voice echoed out the radio. "Evil lies ahead," she said. I was looking down at the radio, trying to turn it off. When I looked up at the road, a woman in a white gown walked right in front of the car. It was unexpected. I looked away for only a second. I stopped the car and pulled over on the side of the road. My wife had woken up at that point. "I hit someone," I told her. I was in shock and kind of nervous to get out of the car to see. My wife and I both got out of the car and walked over to where I hit her. She wasn't there. We looked around, but there was no sign of anything. No blood, no body, just nothing. I knew I wasn't going crazy. I saw her and I felt I saw her and I felt as her body rolled over the top of my car. My wife had assumed I wasn't getting enough sleep, so she suggested she finish the drive to Colorado. I agreed and we got back in the car and drove off. Almost 2 hours later, I was listening to the radio and able to sleep as my wife was driving. The radio again turned to static and the clear roads were suddenly foggy. I immediately felt that something was wrong and something bad was about to happen. I couldn't really see but the road due to the fog. But I noticed someone standing in the middle of the road. "Stop!" I screamed. She stopped the car and the woman just 10 feet ahead of us. "It's her!" I said. "It's the woman I hit!" "I don't see anyone," she said, glaring out of the road. Somehow she couldn't see her, but I did. The woman in the white gown. And she was probably on her 40s. I wasn't losing my mind like my wife thought. I was. The woman spoke, and what she said had me shivering in fear. "Evil lies ahead." I looked at my wife, and she was oblivious to what was going on. I didn't understand why she wasn't seeing or hearing what I was, but I wish she had. Now more than ever, I tried to convince her that something bad was about to happen. I tried to convince her that someone was trying to warn us. It was too late. We saw headlights coming at the very last second. I woke up hours later in a dark room. The only source of light was coming from the small rectangular window that barely invited in the sunlight. It was clear that I was in a basement, but the question was where. The first thing I noticed was my wife wasn't with me. I quickly jumped out of the bed and just to fall right on the floor. My right leg. My right leg was gone. It was cut from the knee down. It was then I noticed how in pain I was. I screamed for my wife, fearing that something bad had happened to her. I helplessly lay on the floor until I heard the basement door creak open, followed by footsteps. I pressed my back against the basement wall and waited for what seemed like an eternity. "Mr. Edmund, you should really be in bed," a man said, helping me to the bed. He was wearing a lab coat, so I assumed he was a doctor. "Where is she?" I asked. "My wife!" He put his hand on my forehead, noticing how high my temperature was. "You should calm down, Mr. Edmund. You're burning up." "I want to know where my wife is," I said. "I'm not coming down until I find out." He took off his glasses and put them in his pocket. "She's dead, Mr. Edmund," he said. "I'm sorry, but her injuries were too severe." I didn't want to believe it, but I had no choice but to. I thought about her as a memory. That's all she'd ever be now. I thought about the beautiful wedding we just had, how beautiful and happy she looked. She was dead, and I felt like the 4 years that we had known each other was all for nothing. "Where is she?" I asked, wiping the tears from my eyes. "She's at the morgue, about 30 minutes from here." "I want to see her," I said. "Mr. Edmund, You're not in the shape to go anywhere, he said. Now eat up. I'm sure you're hungry. He put a plate on the nightstand. I want to see her! I yelled before he walked away. He stopped and turned around. You really shouldn't yell, Mr. Edmund, he said. You just might wake the dead. He laughed before walking up the stairs. I got out of the bed and hopped my way up the stairs just to find out the door was locked. The guy was clearly hiding something, and I had to find out if he had anything to do with my wife. Hours later, as the day shifted into night, I was in bed, thinking about my wife, when I heard the door creak open. I heard no footsteps this time. I got out of the bed and crawled my way to the stairs. I looked up and saw the door open, but nobody was there. I hopped up the stairs and I walked through the door. It was a living room, and it was strangely decorated with old furniture. It seemed as if I went back in time to the 60s. Something strange was going on, and I had no idea what it was. It got even more confusing when I noticed the pictures out on the table stand. It was a family photo of the man with a young boy and a woman who I assumed was his wife. The one that I had seen on the road. I don't know how it was possible, but it was her. I had a feeling that my wife was somewhere in the house, so I walked around to see if I could find her. I walked into the kitchen and I noticed the trail of blood coming from the refrigerator. I walked slowly to the door and I opened it. What I saw was despicable, and it painted a picture in my mind that I would have to live for the rest of my life. There were limbs, cold, bloody limbs. I would never have known that they were the severed limbs of my wife, if it weren't for the ring that I proposed to her with. I thought about the food I'd eaten earlier, and I instantly vomited. I knew there was something about that guy. Something seemed off. I heard the floor creak behind me. I turned around to see that psycho fuck beside me, swinging a baseball bat that I couldn't dodge in time. I woke up hours later, back in the basement. The pain I felt in my leg was unbearable. I couldn't move because my arms were strapped to the bed. And even if I could move, I'd fall flat on the floor. My left leg was gone. He cut off my other leg, and he was slowly killing me. My mouth was covered with duct tape, so I couldn't scream even if I wanted to. Oh, good. You're awake. He was standing at my side, eating a piece of meat that I assume was my leg. You want to know something? He asked me. You taste good. I was just imagining my hands wrapped around his neck and slowly killing him. Have you ever wondered what you'd taste like? Well, I guess you probably already know. He ripped the tape off my mouth, and I didn't even notice how painful it was. I'll fucking kill you. It was the first thing I said. I wasn't sure how I'd do it, without any legs and being strapped to a bed, but murdering him in the most vicious way was all I could think of. I've eaten many people in my life, Mr. Edmund, but I'd say you take the cake. You're sick, and you belong in hell. I'm already in hell, Mr. Edmund, he said with a creepy smile. I killed myself back in 1964, right after I ate my wife and son. I didn't believe him, of course. I figured he was part of his sick mind. Why don't you just kill me? Get over with it. Well, Mr. Edmund, I learned that human flesh tastes a lot better fresh, so I'm going to keep you alive for a while. He stood from his chair. Get some sleep, Mr. Edmund. I think you'll taste a lot better when you do. He walked up to the stairs and closed the door. I was prepared to die. I'm honestly still surprised that I'm not now. There was a sudden knock on the door hours later, and I yelled as loud as I could, hoping they could hear me. A group of men came running down the stairs and helped me out of the bed and out of the house. I was lucky they spotted my car on the side of the road and followed the tracks and led them to the house. It was a miracle. I was surprised to find out the house was actually abandoned and that nobody lived there since a doctor by the name of James Conway had been brutally murdered and eaten his wife and child before taking his own life. The severed pieces of my wife were found in the old refrigerator, and they weren't the only ones they found. There were many people who were reported missing in the area, but they were never found over the last 50 years. Nobody believes me when I told them it was James Conway who killed my wife and ate my legs. I guess they believe that a copycat killer was on the loose. And there are more victims after me, and I'm sure there will be many more in the future. I'll warn you though, you're not safe in the northern parts of Colorado. If you see any warning signs, a woman in a white gown telling you that something evil lies ahead, drive the